The spell Bones of the Earth is one of my all-time favorite spells, and today one of our viewers, I'm Just Sick and Tired, asked us to do a build focused just around Bones of the Earth. So let's do it. In order to pull this build off, you need to begin with the limitations and benefits of Bones of the Earth. The first limitation is that it's a 6th level spell that we don't get until level 11. That's pretty late. The second limitation is that we can only pick up medium and smaller creatures with Bones of the Earth. So if we're facing a large enemy, we're not going to pick them up unless we do a very niche strategy, which we'll get into later. Also, there are only 2 classes that can possibly get it on their spell list, Druid and Bard through Magical Secrets. And because Bards can't get it at level 10 with Magical Secrets, they have to wait to level 14. For that reason, I'm going Druid, because we've been waiting long enough, I want to get it as soon as possible. What are its benefits? Well, Bones of the Earth is a crazy versatile spell. The first is it's non-concentration, and the second is you can attempt to pin your enemies to the ceiling, giving them the restrained condition as well as doing damage, again with no concentration. But it also has a bunch of other benefits. You can use it to create makeshift walls or to isolate teams and do a divide and conquer strategy. You can also use it to pull your ranged allies up in the air, getting them away from scary melee enemies and potentially giving them advantage if your DM does high ground advantage. There are so many cool things to do with this spell, and it'll be fun to build a build around it, but let's keep all of those things it does in mind as we make our character choices, so once we finally do get that spell, we are set up to do extremely powerful things with it. So let's begin by talking about our lineage. There are so many different lineages you can do with this. If it works well for druids, it works well for this build. We have the custom lineage, and you can take the Fey Touched Feet along with it to start out with 18 wisdom, as well as have Silvery Barbs and Misty Step, 2 of the most powerful spells in the game, added to your spell list. Other options include Turtle for its AC, which allows us to completely dump Dexterity, which makes it so we can invest really heavily into Constitution. Or we could take Harengon or Goblin, who have some disengage options. We can take some of the tankier people like Goliath or Earth Genasi to be able to take more hits. Really, the decision is yours. For the sake of this build and its simplicity, I'm just going to say I am going with Goblin. So as for our stats, we're going to be going primarily into Wisdom. We're going to have a secondary in Constitution and a tertiary in Dexterity. As for our leveling structure, we're going to be going 20 levels into Stars Druid. So let's talk about those early levels into Druid. We're going to get our Wisdom proficiency saving throws, and then we're going to get the standard Druid lower than average defenses, but at least we have a shield and then some mediocre armor. Combined with Goblin's disengage, we should have some fairly decent defensive options. Now once we get level 2, we're going to get it our Starry form. Starry form is really important for this build, and it does a couple different things. First is that it allows us to have the archery Starry form, which gives us a bonus action attack. Now keep in mind that Bones of the Earth allows us to restrain people and then bonus action attack at advantage. So now we can Bones of the Earth, Starry form, shoot them with an arrow with advantage. I like that synergy. So we're going to kind of build around this archery fighting style. This just gets more dramatic once you consider the Stars Druid gives us Guiding Bolt. Guiding Bolt is fantastic, and us getting it a certain amount of times for free every day is freaking amazing. And again, because it's an attack, we're going to have advantage if they're stuck by Bones of the Earth. Just keep that in mind. Something else to consider here is we may not be able to use Bones of the Earth to restrain them now, but we do have Entangle. So even at these low levels, we can set up similar combos without using Bones of the Earth by using Entangle, followed by our Starry form bonus action attack, and maybe on the next turn hitting them with the Guiding Bolt, etc. As we level up in Starry form, we get a support option in Cosmic Omen, and then later we just get to buff our archery attacks with Twinkling Constellations. But the main thing we're going to be synergizing with Bones of the Earth is actually our spells, and that's because Bones of the Earth is not concentration, so we're going to likely be using concentration spells in combination with it to do some really incredible things. So for example, maybe we want to super control someone. Well, Bones of the Earth can pick someone up, smash them into the ceiling, and restrain them. We can then follow it up with Entangle, or vice versa, and now they're double restrained. Now both of those abilities require them to take an action to break out of it. So I think this would be particularly good if there's a group of bunched up enemies. We can Entangle them and then Bones of the Earth them, so they're kind of all in this one big clump. And then they all have to use their actions twice to break free from it. It's just really sticky, and I think that's a great control option we have. Summons also really stand out here as well. Specifically, the Summon Beast the Air version, as well as the Summon Draconic Spirit. The reason why is they can fly up to our pinned enemies up there on the ceiling, and they can attack and then disengage. The Draconic Spirit, of course, just using its reach instead. And it also has a breath weapon attack, which is a dexterity saving throw, which, if you didn't know, also is going to have disadvantage because they're restrained. So we're attacking with advantage, and they're making their saving throw at disadvantage. So the Summon Draconic Spirit is also really powerful here. And And this is really great because now we've set it up that we have multiple sources of damage attacking them at advantage. We have our Guiding Bolt into Starry form bonus action into our summon getting to use their combination of attacks. That's a lot of damage. Another idea is if we pin a bunch of enemies up in a specific pattern, we can combine it with Wall of Fire. Wall of Fire is going to do really high consistent damage if they hold still, which we're holding them still. And so if we hit enough people in the right formation, we can line up a Wall of Fire and start burning them as well. What's really cool about this is because we're kind of lining it up at these certain, three-dimensional angles, we can still make it so we can see the enemy to combine it with the attacks we're already planning on doing. So you can get a really high damage output if the stars align. Pun intended. Erupting Earth is a non-concentration. It's kind of like a budget fireball. It's a great spell that we'll probably have for our whole career as just a kind of blast spell for us. But what's interesting is that, as written, although the Earth is erupting, it doesn't do damage to objects nearby. So you could do it with the pillar and be able to hurt them and damage them, especially if you catch a bunch in an area, but it's not going to affect the pillar in any negative way, so you can keep them pinned. And finally, the last spell to mention is Enlarge/Reduce. We can only lift medium or smaller creatures, so Enlarge/Reduce can take a large creature and make them medium sized, so next turn we can Bones of the Earth them. Something to consider, kind of niche, but pretty interesting, and it does allow us to set up and cover one of the Bones of the Earth's weaknesses. Something I also want to mention here is, again, the versatility of Bones of the Earth. You can use it to create small pillars that can act as cover for teammates. You can lift allies up and then lift a second pillar up in front of them so they have cover and high ground, pick up enemies, create walls, isolate people, and you can do a lot of this at once because you create 6 pillars. You can do multiple different strategies all in one go. And that's just something I want to iterate here is, although we're doing a lot of synergies with pinning our enemies to the top of the ceiling, we might find other synergies depending on the situation and depending on our allies, so keep an eye out open for those. At the end of the day, this is a fairly simple build. You're going straight Druid, you're taking a lot of the spells that Druids would take anyways, and you're really just working towards that penultimate moment when you get to pick up your enemies, slam them in the wall, and get to do a bunch of cool combos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to leave us a challenge build in the comments down below, feel free to do so. I want to give a special shout out to I'm Just Sick and Tired. Thank you so much for the challenge build. Hope you enjoyed it. And I also want to give a special shout out to some of our patrons. It goes out to Sean, Rav, and Ryan. Thank you guys so much for your support. It means the world to us. And with that, my friends, hope you have yourselves an incredible day, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you then.